Welcome to the first podcast of oilfielduniversity.com. I'm your host, Greg Williams. As we're just getting started here, we'll do one of these a week. So let's get that listener base built up. Feel free to pass the word along to your coworkers and friends out there in the oil and gas industry. So being the host, I feel it's right. First things first, a bit about myself. I'm 40 years old, married with 4 kiddos. I'm originally from Louisiana. Small town named Manny, but currently living here in the great city of Houston, Texas. 22 years in the oil and gas industry, working specifically for drilling contractors, once upon a time for the largest and also the smallest. I'm currently still employed with a drilling contractor, and they are not affiliated with our opinions or views here at oilfielduniversity.com. What's the reason we started Oilfield University? I personally believe that there are voices that need to be heard from the working class part of the industry. I'm not a specialist at radio broadcasting, but I am a specialist at drilling contractor services and people. So our podcast will be kept on the field of oil and gas upstream, downstream, a bit of news, humor, and hopefully some avenue for you, the listeners, to get your thoughts and opinions out there so the world can hear them. We'll talk a bit about the actual drilling contractor services, the insides and outs of the business, share a bit of trade secrets, get a laugh or two in. My hopes that these podcasts reach listeners all over the world in the industry and can be used to uplift morale and camaraderie even on board the hardest operations. So let's crank it up. Will I be right 100% of the time? Absolutely not. You, the listener, will be the fuel for this show. I want your star to shine the brightest. The content will change from week to week as we visit different topics within the contractor services. As just discussed, you can drop us a mail about any topic, and we can open these up for discussions during the week. Our website, if you're not already there, is oilfielduniversity.com. If you have a topic that you would like more insight on or that you believe would be good material for the show, please submit it to content@oilfielduniversity.com and we will review the request. The doors are always open here. We will randomly select mail to read as well as any other social media outlet that is currently represented on the website: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Oil Pro. We're not Pinterest users here at Oilfield University, so we'll not be sharing content through that media source. So hopefully you can find your brownie and bread recipes and on Pinterest and take care of that with that social media. So visit the website, like us, share us, and spread the word. Of course, as always, the legal small text is that everything on our show is copyright oilfielduniversity.com, Competency LLC, and myself. But as always, you can feel free to share your opinions and views. Freedom of speech, use it. It is more powerful now than it has ever been in history. So, a bit of background of my career to start off the first show. With 22 years in, I was around the Gulf of Mexico for the first 14 years. 7 of those wonderful years were spent on the Deepwater horizon. Feel free to ask questions. I'm not under a court order, so I can speak freely about the subject, as these are my opinions and views. I was part of that magnificent team, and the people that were lost, 7 of the 11 were my co-workers. I directly supervised 6 of them at one point in time or another. Is it an emotional point that needs to be discussed? Absolutely. There's been laws put into place and regulations changed because of the incident, some for the better and some not so good. Overall, as small as our industry is, we need to remember the people that are not with us anymore and their contribution to a better life for the future of all employees that drill wells every single day all over the world. Before the Deepwater horizon, I spent time with 2 other contractors. Both are still in business today. They have gone through multiple changes, but all in all, they were good companies as well as good to me and my family. As time changes, just like friendships change, we lose touch with the ones that work the hardest for us the ones where the rubber meet the road, the real people. The last 8 years, I went into research and development in dual gradient and managed pressure drilling in the UK and the US, upgrade and repair projects in Canada and the Gulf of Mexico, drilling operations in West Africa, new build construction and support in Korea, and multiple country moves from Korea, Singapore, Myanmar, Brunei, Malaysia, South Africa, and West Africa. When I'm not on days off, I spend it in Congo, West Africa, in a development field for a major client with a team of very talented individuals that I also call my family. Also, just a quick note here, Oilfield University would like to share the stories of your kids out there. If you go to our website, there are 2 links for the podcast. One is the weekly podcast, which is the one that you're currently listening to. This, of course, this being the first one of the week. And the second is our podcast series. If you click on series, it will take you to our kids of the oil field. First 3 links there that you will see are my children. I seen fit to start the series off with. They were a bit nervous, but that also adds to the fun of the experience for them. They get to hear their voices on the internet and get to enjoy putting their views and opinions out there for the world to hear. We want to hear those stories and interviews with your kids. We want the world to see through their eyes. You'll not get a better truth on things in the world than from the mouth of a child. So we want you to send these to us. Reach out to us by email, content@oilfielduniversity.com. Share your stories. Also, listeners, we don't do a whole lot of editing here at Oilfield University. We feel that it's better uncut and original. With that being said, it's okay if the volume is a bit scratchy or there are some strange noises in the background. I'll be recording from airports, taxis, streets, airplanes, or boardrooms, so we won't spend a whole lot of time editing the podcast. Again, we're not professionals at this, and the message is better raw. So if you need more professional recording, then you may want to switch over to NPR or Sports Talk, because you won't get that here. We will have a live stream coming soon, as well as an open chat with myself, so you'll be able to find a link on the website when we get all that black magic sorted out and posted. So for a bit of news for this week, another drill ship cancellation with Samsung Heavy Industries on failure to timely deliver, the Pacific Zonda. Folks, the belly of the slump is far from over. Steel prices at a low currently because of the demand, but these 6th-generation vessels carry a hefty price tag on milestone payments. It's not easy to make that $350 million payment at the moment for struggling small drilling contractors such as Pacific. I understand they have a few that are currently stacking in the Gulf of Mexico. Just the daily cost to keep these vessels stacked, even at non-operational, upwards $30,000 a day. You know, now we talk about it from the shipbuilder side of the dice. Samsung has a long history of building drilling vessels. They date back to 1998 when Reed and Bates built the first of the Pathfinder series, the Deepwater Pathfinder. As successful they have been with building these ships, acquiring very aggressive production schedules to meet clients' demand also means that you're taking a huge amount of risk, basing your costs on the utilization rates and the supply and oversupply of these vessels for prospective clients. Just as new cars go, when there's no one to buy the car, what happens? Well, these sort of expensive new cars don't go away that easily. The industry will be filled with ships that have been half commissioned and teams that do not understand how the top side operates, as they would have come into the ship after it has been sitting idle in the shipyard half construction for the last 2 to 3 years. Analysts say 2017 is the year we'll be looking for, a bit of hope. But folks, that is a fair bit away, and now is the time to manage your revenue very wisely. Of course, this impacts hundreds of people, layoffs, lost jobs, complete generation of people that may never come back because of the stability of the industry. That in itself is another broadcast for later. Mexico oil and gas sector leader Pemex has recorded the 12th straight quarterly loss in a row, 10.2 billion US. Hey folks, I'm just going to be brutally honest. If you're running this type of loss, you have to ask yourself, what am I doing? Am I doing everything I can do to fix my OPEX and CAPEX forecast? As a multi-billion-dollar company, you have that kind of loss. It's not hard to see that its money is being used for something else and possibly not acquiring enough talent to fix their issue. That may be their sole problem. They say the loss contributes to the decline in the WTI, or the West Texas Intermediate, and the decline of the peso as well as active rig count. Look, you have to set your forecast at a realistic number. Let's see, 12 quarters. Check my math here, folks. 3 months to a quarter, 4 quarters a year. Well, that's 3 years, I believe. Do you have enough work to sustain active rig count? If you don't plan new projects if you don't have the revenue or backlog to replace the money that you're spending. It's a tipping scale. Unfortunately, it's time for these guys to clean the board and make some serious changes. As a quote from Mr. Alan Watts, an American philosopher, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. How much of that makes sense today with the mountains and valleys we still face to come? There are some bright spots. New technology within the sector is beginning to move again. We're finding alternative ways to make things cheaper, as development costs have been driven down, especially from surplus of steel and material on the market. Wood Group just recently received a multi-billion-dollar contract to provide engineering services to BP's existing subsea infrastructures in the Gulf of Mexico, the UK, Norway, and Azerbaijan continental shelves. This shows two things realistically: that we are able to manage projects at a far less cost than before, or BP has lost the internal talent to manage these large projects and they're looking for support. I personally don't know how long Wood Group and BP worked on this deal, most likely a few years, but determining your needs as far in advance as you can is the key to making sure you have the revenue to put in place to finance these future initiatives. That's just a bit of what's going on currently in the industry. So I've met some amazing people in this industry, learned from the best and the worst. The experiences have been worthwhile and should be shared with you, the listeners, and your stories can be shared with the rest of the world as well. So for the rest of the show, let's talk about competency. I don't openly support people or companies that make money from competency programs or assessments. If you're a company, you hired these guys. As a word of advice, the promotion of supervisors not ready to be supervisors is why we have competency issues. It is fitting to understand the manner in which the term has become so widely adopted by the industry and basically turned into a standard for which companies make a huge amount of money off of. We have become, as our elders said before us, a rod for our own backside. So let's visit the meaning of competency for a moment from our folks at Merriam-Webster. Derived from competent, having the necessary ability or skills, able to do something well or well enough to meet a standard. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've been part of the personal development for years, and the only way to train people are by firsthand. When I say firsthand, that means you teach them by showing them the right way to do things. In their personal development, you as the teacher should see if there's any issues that are trouble areas. Of course, not all people teach the same or see the issues as real issues per se. Being thorough, being precise, and bringing value to every conversation that you have during the development process is something that gets commonly left out. It's basically due to how well you as a supervisor have interacted with people and how well you were taught how to interact with people. This topic is a very heated topic in the industry at the moment, and I will get mail and comments about it. Feel free. We are the reason we have incompetent people. We are the reason companies have spent billions of dollars fixing our mess. We are the reason. So you ask, why are we the reason? If you do not tell your people where they're making mistakes, then teach them how to make it right. You're setting a learning example that would be passed down until someone tells them they're wrong. Granted, 5 years or 10 years down the road, you have now been corrected and deemed incompetent in your abilities. Is this your fault? for being incompetent? To a degree, yes. It's your career and your job. But you are not the only one to blame. You were promoted without being given the right tools to work with. So what tools do we have to give you to correct these kind of deficiencies? Well, we give you a development plan. A development plan written for who? A standard written for when? A pile of paper that gets pushed through more people that are incompetent. Systems of failure built on systems of failure. So you ask, Greg, how do we fix this now? You start off by telling that person they need to be demoted and trained properly. Well, if there's so much incompetency, then how can we learn after being demoted? Easy. You open up your mouth and you start asking questions. Questions that you should have asked when you were taking the easy road and everyone thought you were the best thing since sliced white bread. But Greg, it's a kinder, gentler industry now. Well, this is what I have to say about the kinder, gentler industry. The next time you blow up a rig, let's talk about kinder and gentler. I don't buy into the industry programs that say they can make your people perform better. They can teach your people how to be competent. It's that person's sole responsibility to fix the errors in their ways once they're aware of their issues. Not following procedures, human factors, no supervision, weak leadership. All of these are signs of incompetency in one shape, form, or fashion. Someone did not tell you the truth about who you are, and now it's time to be brutally honest. Taking that step back down may mean the possibility of saving someone's life down the road. Openly acknowledging that you're incompetent is the first part of it, without having to pay millions of dollars to have a team tell you this. What if you're not incompetent and you know that you've been dealt a bad hand? Well, I say it's time to move on. To people that respect who you are and what you bring to the team, if you cannot prove to your leadership that you or your team are competent, then your options are limited. We know that these decisions that affect the actual revenue producing ability of an operation are not taken kindly or silently. There's a push to keep these positions filled, even if the person is incompetent. Why? Because these positions have a heavy price tag, and we don't want to lose that kind of money due to competency issues. Fix it, people. You're the master of your destiny. You're the one that can make a difference. You're the one that can make the change. Well, that's all we have for the moment, folks. Thanks for listening, and please feel free to send us your comments. As always, listen and live loud.